day sitting, to spend all day sitting and walking and feeling what it is to be alive. It's feeling that it's amazing how the temperature of light, when it changes, it just changes so quickly, as well as little allergies and live that get hooked up in the swelling. Pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So we are focusing on the book Breathe, You Are Alive by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Anapanasati Sutta. Good job. Elsie helped us take apart beautifully in her talk on Tuesday. And I'm also using Transformation and Healing, the Sutra and the Four Establishments of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, because the Satipatthana Sutta, which I don't have trouble saying, the four foundations or establishments of mindfulness, is the ground out of which the Anapanasati Sutta comes. Woohoo! So I'm going to do just a little bit of review of what Chelsea presented on Tuesday. We'll begin with the four foundations of mindfulness. The body, the focus of the breath in the body. Feelings, ground of breath and in feeling, which I'm going to review in a minute, which is what Chelsea did. The mind, which is what we're going to focus mostly on today. And then next week, objects of mind, and then an overview. Then after next week, we're going to do the Vimalakirti Sutra, take a dip into that. Another amazing Mahayana Sutra. So mindfulness of feelings. So feelings are not, we're not talking about emotions. By the time you get to emotions, we're way down the road. But just the bare affective tone of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. It's by the time, which is of course happening all the time, we're completely identified with me, and I'm feeling this, or you're doing that to me, or our 100 million stories that get kicked into and then reprocessed through. It sounds like a different story, but if you're really paying attention, we're bringing this back and we're bringing it down. We're bringing it body, breath. We ended up on Tuesday laughing about, you could just walk around the house, walk around your life in your car, or whatever, is when an unpleasant felt sense of the world arises, just say unpleasant, just name it. Doesn't have to be good, bad, or otherwise, just unpleasant felt sense. Take a breath. Or pleasant, notice it. The thing is with unpleasant is when unpleasant arises, which of course, if we're alive, this felt sense is going to arise. When unpleasant arises, what then we are more and more propelled into, or propels us, as aversion. It's unpleasant. I don't want it. I don't like it. Who did it? I'm going to name you the, well, we'll get to there in a minute. With pleasant, instead of like, oh, what a wonderful moment, pleasant moment, wonderful moment. Then it brings up all kinds of greed of I want it. I don't want it to go away. I want more. And we all each have 100 million different ways of doing that. We're not judging this. We're studying it, the propulsion of how we keep believing that we're a separate being, which we are, and we're not. And then neutral. which can manifest as apathy or complacency. Just didn't know it, didn't feel it, whatever. It's just kind of a flatness to a neutral feeling. So the more that we bring it into awareness, the more we can be aware of when we get triggered. The more we can be aware of our habitual thought patterns and then our behavior patterns. Again, no judgment. It's like waking up in the middle of this amazing, alive world. So, and this came up on Tuesday, the practice is to, this isn't I or me. I am not feeling angry. I mean, I may be feeling angry. We'll see, there's a big emphasis in mental states and anger, just fascinating in itself. But anger is arising, which is really different than I am angry or you made me angry. You can start to feel how it more and more it becomes a thing as opposed to just an energy state and an awareness. And the more that we're aware of arising, enduring, passing, dissolving, the more we're aware of this whole world is just full of flux and change and movement. And whatever we think somebody's going to take away from us, or that we think that we want, or that we don't have, or what somebody did, or on and on, which is what we human beings do. There's also this kind of internal, external, it's a field of awareness in which there is some part of us. There is some deeper awareness of, oh, it's all just movement and change. It's just, oh, this moment. And then, of course, the more space there is, the more possibility there is of doing something different, which arises out of the amazing aliveness of all things and interconnection, which is where creativity and possibility arises. So then, pleasant feelings instead of moving into greed are just appreciation, gratitude. A painful feeling instead of aversion is, well, we'll see. I'm going to try some different meditations with you today. Compassion, the cultivation of compassion that arises. And neutral feelings is just, it's not solid bad all the time. There's moments, there's gaps. It's alive. Breathe, you're alive. So contemplation of mind, which means actually observation of mind states. Thich Nhat Hanh says, understanding is the root of love. So what we're doing is we're actually cultivating a deep, visceral, embodied sense of understanding, not just some understanding that it's all interconnected, it's all love. No, this is like deep embodied insight. And the more that we know it, the more that what arises, which is what already is love. And understanding that everything, it's an illusion of separation. It's not going to go away. It's just we're going to give it some kind of field. Step backward step into a bigger field in which we can just watch it at play. And sometimes we can laugh more. Sometimes we can cry more. It's like, oh my goodness, oh, look at us human beings. Oh my goodness, how many times have I been tumbled and tossed around by this one? Oh my goodness, what an amazing thing it is to be alive. Just breathe. So mind states can arise out of the physical, the psychological, and the physiological. This is from Bhikkhu Bodhi. There's no elation or dejection, only a clear identification of the state, without clinging to the desired ones or resenting the undesired ones. And as contemplation deepens, the seemingly solid, stable mind reveals itself to be a stream of mental acts, flashing in and out of being, coming from nowhere and going nowhere, continuing in sequence without pause. That's what's actually going on all the time. So in the Anapanasati Sutta, the four phrases are that Thich Nhat Hanh brings forward for us to practice with. Breathing in, I am aware of my mind. Breathing out, I am aware of my mind. Breathing in, making my mind happy. Breathing out, I make my mind happy. Breathing in, I concentrate my mind. Breathing out, I concentrate my mind. Breathing in, I liberate my mind. Breathing out, I liberate my mind. First one, breathing in, aware of my mind. Being aware of mind is beyond subject, object. It's not the mind stepping outside to look at the mind. It's being right in the center of it and watching in the vastness of the isness of mind states arising and passing. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, then what we do is we jump in and we become one with it. Like, oh, why? Here it is. So here are 28 mental formations. We've never done the Abhidharma. We probably never will, because it's way beyond me, which is really studying mental states. But maybe some of you will get all excited and figure out about the Abhidharma, which is part of the Pali teachings. But here are 75. You'll probably get confused about which page is in which book. Here are 28 mental formations. You ready? You might be familiar with some of these. Whoa, look who's here. They include desire, anger, ignorance, disturbance, narrowness, limitedness, lack of concentration, lack of freedom, dullness and drowsiness, agitation and remorse, doubt. They're opposites: not desiring, not hating, not non-ignorance, non-disturbance, tolerance, unlimitedlessness, concentration, freedom, absence of doubt, absence of dullness and drowsiness, absence of agitation, as well as mindfulness, distaste, peace, joy, ease, and letting go. One, you probably thought you were the only one who had those mind states. Probably beat yourself up for having them, not having them, whatever. It's like, sorry. These are mental formations as they arise in human beings. As we become more and more aware of them, we get less and less hooked by them. And Thich Nhat Hanh says it's really beautiful. Is, well, one, the more we become aware of them, awareness changes everything. And he says that you do it, of course, with kindness and with love. And what he says is, I am here to take care of you. Oh, anger. Oh, drowsiness. Oh, this. Oh, that. I'm just here to take care of you, to hold you the way a mother holds a child. So we become one with the breathing. The thinking, we drop it. Just say, thank you very much, thinking. I'm not going to get so entangled with you. And And the river is the mind just become more and more aware that it's just a river moving of psychological phenomena always flowing. Should be grateful. If you don't have psychological phenomena always flowing, it means you're dead, or maybe if you're enlightened, but I don't know what that's about, but. Means you're alive. What we do with it, how we relate to it. Everything arises with everything else, and we can recognize if it's wholesome or unwholesome. That's a wholesome thought. That's an unwholesome thought. That's all. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. So here Thich Nhat Hanh observes with us that many people confuse desire with happiness. So I thought I'd offer this. I'm going to move us in and out of meditation. Here's observing the desiring mind. When the mind is desiring, the practitioner is aware, my mind is desiring. When the mind is not desiring, the practitioner is aware, my mind is not desiring. When your mind is hating something, you are aware, my mind is hating. When your mind is not hating, you are aware, my mind is not hating. When your mind is in a state of ignorance, you are aware, my mind is in a state of ignorance. When your mind is not in a state of ignorance, you are aware, my mind is not in a state of ignorance. When your mind is tense, you are aware, my mind is tense. When your mind is not tense, you are aware, my mind is not tense. When your mind is distracted, you could just simply say, my mind is distracted. And when your mind is not distracted, notice that too. Might be an act of gratitude. My mind is not distracted. When your mind has a wider scope, you could just notice, my mind has widened its scope. Isn't that kind of sweet? And when your mind has a narrow scope, just name it. My mind has become narrow in scope. When your mind is capable of reaching a higher state, you could be aware, my mind is capable of reaching a higher state. That might be a pleasant feeling, but then you don't have to go and read about it, because then, of course, once we have a pleasant state, then we think, well, all those other states and this one's going to go away, and I sure would like more of this, but you just notice it, that's all. It's like, don't miss it. You don't have to just be aware of the ones that you think are bad or unpleasant. You could just say, my mind is not capable of reaching a higher state. Isn't that kind of sweet? Right now, my mind is not capable of reaching a higher state. I think I'll just be here and breathe with this. When your mind is composed, simply say, my mind is composed. When your mind is not composed, just name it, hold it like a child and love it. My mind is not composed in this moment. When your mind is free, oh, my mind is free. And when your mind is not free, just note, my mind is not free. Desire, as it's used in Buddhist terminology, means to be caught in unwholesome longing through form or sound or smells or tastes or touch. Just notice it. Just keep coming back. Because desire is also why we're alive. Like, there wasn't desire, there wouldn't be sex, there wouldn't be, you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here. So let's just know more and more the taste of desire, which can be wholesome. My desire is to wake up with and for all beings. And my mind is not composed in this moment, but I know that my deepest intention is to wake up with you for all beings. So I'll just notice that. So unwholesome has the quality of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, suspicion, jealousy, fear, hatred, despair, restlessness, which do seem to be kind of some of the mind states of our age, of our time, right now. So when I suggested when we were sitting, just in, out, deep, slow, isn't just for us. It's not just to calm my mind. I mean, of course, it does really help my mind to be settled. But on the deepest level of mind, big mind, each in, out, each noting is rippling and touching across the world in the way that maybe we can more obviously notice it when, because we're getting all kinds of news and papers about anxiety and anxieties and the youth and is it's catching. Anxiety is catching the effect of each other. So why wouldn't deep, slow, ease. It equally affects everything. Doesn't mean we have to be perfect human beings. It means how we settle and be in relationship to it. So it's interesting. As I said, that one of the mental states, mental formations that Thich Nhat Hanh really focuses on, and the Buddhist teachings, is anger. Here's exercise 14, observing anger. When anger is present, just be aware anger is present in me. When anger is not present, simply be aware anger is not present in me. When anger begins to arise, just be aware of it. Anger arises. When already arisen anger is abandoned, be aware of it. Oh, anger, freedom from anger. When anger already abandoned will not arise again in the future, be aware of that. Ooh, that's a strong suggestion in itself, that anger already abandoned will not arise again in the future. I just sort of, in my mind patterns, especially about some of the things happening these days in the world, I just assume anger is going to continue to arise. What if there was another way to practice with this? Maybe something else. Maybe we can hold this in a different field. Anger arises, but letting go of anger. And then what's here? So as we become more and more aware of the mind and the mind field, the next practice is breathing in. I make my mind happy. The more we're aware, the more happiness grows. Because seeing and understanding brings about love and compassion. Because we touch the positive. We begin to touch faith, and we begin to touch goodwill and compassion and understanding and tolerance and equanimity, which brings ease and concentration. And so we're watering the joy and forgiveness and love. So we're not just noticing the quote, unpleasant or negative, we're noticing and watering the pleasant. Breathing in, I recognize the mental formation of nonviolence in me. Breathing out, I feel happy. Breathing in, I have faith in the practice I am doing. Breathing out, I feel happy. Breathing in, I know that at this moment I am not caught in any desire. Breathing out, I feel happy. Breathing in, I know that I am not angry at anyone. Breathing out, I feel happy. We should not stop at this, Thich Nhat Hanh says. We can continue by observing the mental function to shed light on it in order to arrive in awakened understanding. Only awakened understanding can lead us to complete freedom. So the emphasis isn't just on noting mental states, it's noticing that they arise and pass. And that actually practice touches and transforms who and what we think we are and what the world is and isn't. Which requires, which is the next practice, is breathing in, I concentrate my mind. Breathing out, I concentrate my mind. Concentration, which is what Zazen is, which is why we come here and we sit together and we help each other, which is why we do longer retreats, which is why we have these practices, because if our mind is all over the place, we're going to be doing nothing but being tossed around, which is okay to just notice that you're being tossed around. So we embrace it, whatever is here, and we look at it deeply. We need concentration. Come back, like training a dog. Come back. Come back. Sit. Sit. Even give each other treats. The most obvious treat being it makes you happy to come back if you really notice. Because as Thich Nhat Hanh says, the essence of love and compassion is understanding. The more we come back, the more understanding we have. The more we come back, the more understanding we have about what it is to be a human. And then we more and more can see the suffering in others, which then takes us to the next training, which is breathing in, I liberate my mind. Breathing out, I liberate my mind. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it untying the knots. This exercise aims at untying all the knots of the mind, the sorrows and memories of the past, the anxieties and predictions concerning the future, feelings of irritation, fear, and doubt in the present, or confusion created by inaccurate perceptions. Only by concentrating the mind do we have the capacity to observe, illumine, and be emancipated from obstacles. Looking deeply into our body and consciousness, we recognize our internal knots. We've all got them. How do we come into relationship? With kindness and with love? Like, oh, dear old knot, I know you. Here you are again. True happiness is not possible unless we know how to untie these knots and become free. When a person you love says something unmindful or unkind, you might get an internal knot. Mm-hmm. It might be a small knot, but it is a knot. It can become harmful if you don't untie it. And the next time your beloved makes the same mistake, the knot will grow. Out of forgetfulness, we create internal knots in each other and don't realize it until one day we can no longer look each other in the eye and we watch television instead. To untie the knot, we have to begin anew with our beloved. Say, It doesn't just mean our close in beloveds, means beloved of the world. And darling, why did you say such a thing to me? Why did you do such a thing to me? Just thinking, oh, I think maybe I'll start watching the news and saying this. Darling, why did you say such a thing? Why did you do such a thing? If we are skilled practitioners, we do not allow the knot to become stronger. Mindful living helps us know when an internal knot is being formed. If you are a good practitioner, you don't let it go unnoticed. You are aware that you must untie the knot right now to ensure your long-lasting happiness. Take a breath, come back, watch your mind. It wants to keep going. It wants to keep pushing it away. It wants to keep pulling towards itself. Self-righteousness or whatever you think is going on. Take a breath. When we say liberated mind, mind refers to any mental formation that makes us anxious, makes us suffer, or pushes us in the wrong direction. We open our minds so the light of concentration will reveal what is there and liberate what is there. It is the same as trying to untie knots and threads. We have to be calm and we need to take time. By observing our mind in all its subtlety, observe the mind. So subtle, isn't it? So subtle. Sometimes it comes up, bam, anger. But just notice it. Start pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It's happening in the physiology of the body, because sometimes the physiology of the body gets triggered, and then we're off and running, and we didn't even notice. The psychology, the knots of ancient twisted family karma, cultural karma. Just keep watching it. In a calm and self-contained way, we can free our mind from all confusion. Breathing in, I open my heart for all the knots to be untied. Breathing out, I open my heart for all the knots to be untied. So maybe that's where I'll send you into groups. Is and anything about 10 minutes. Let's go into groups of 2 or 3. And anything that this brings up, and I think it's particularly beautiful. Breathing in, I open my heart for all the knots to be untied. Breathing out, I open my heart for all the knots to be untied, or whatever's here.